mini training, unexpected mini training, because there have been a lot of questions in the group related to food and what food we should or should not be eating during perimenopause and menopause, how food impacts weight, weight gain, weight loss, how food impacts our symptoms. Specifically in the group this week, there was conversations about sugar. I did a post about sugar and breaking up with sugar, but one of our sisterhood members wrote about sugar, and then there was another post about carbohydrates and how much to eat and what to eat, and some people who feel when they reduce their carbohydrate intake have migraines or don't feel good, and all the stuff out there, from the nutritionists to the functional medicine people to the dietitians to the menopause coaches like myself to the midlife coaches, talking about food as it relates to this stage of life and symptoms and how you feel and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So I'm jumping on here to really make some sense out of it all, because I see there are so many questions. I see there's a lot of confusion. So let me delve into the topic. And if you have comments, if you have questions, put them in the chat of this video or DM me. And I am happy to answer your personal questions. But I'm hoping that through this training, you will already get some clarity. So as you know, I am Jacqueline Rose. I'm a menopause educator and coach, hormonal health specialist and women's health specialist. I am the founder of this Menopause Sisterhood special, unique, very special space Facebook group. And I'm really happy that you are also engaged in the group. Carry on, keep asking your questions, and there is so much wealth of knowledge, information, and experience from the members of the group, but I will always come in to share some of my extra tidbits and strategies. So let's start at the very beginning. What is perimenopause? Menopause, we know it is a natural, normal, biological, hormonal fluctuating time. These hormones that are fluctuating, we usually focus on the reproductive hormones, the estrogen, the progesterone, the testosterone, the FSH, and also LH. These are our five, yes, including testosterone, these five key reproductive hormones that are predictable and go on a monthly predictable cycle in our fertility reproductive years. Comes perimenopause and things start to change. The problem is, what we are not talking about is the fact that as these reproductive hormones change, it has major implications for our whole body, biologically, physiologically, and for our endocrine system as a system. We like to talk about, specifically from a functional medicine approach, this Goldilocks effect of our hormones needing to be just right. We know that famous story of Goldilocks and the three bears, who tries the porridge, the chairs, and the bed. This one is too big, this one is too hot, this one is too small, this one is too cold. And then she enjoys the just right one. The just right one is this very middle balance of real subtle, sort of the beauty of our body, really, the beauty of our endocrine system and our biology, really, of how our body works, of everything really fitting together like a puzzle, exactly just right. But when things start to change, there are knock-on effects on the whole system. And that is why perimenopause and menopause can be such a roller coaster time, because it's not just that our reproductive hormones are changing. It is the implications, the extension of these reproductive hormones changing and what it does to the rest of our body. So let's get back to this whole food issue and what's going on. When we are in our teens, 20s, and 30s, as I said, our body knows how to work in a very predictable way. Our hormone levels, even though they fluctuate, They fluctuate predictably. Our body knows what to expect. There usually aren't any surprises. And if there are surprises, that is when women are hit with symptoms in their 20s and their 30s, reproductive issues, fertility issues, fibromyalgia, chronic disease, thyroid issues. All of those types of things are warning signs that our body is sending us that something is out of balance. But let's just take the average woman who is going along her life with a regular, predictable period cycle and everything is okay. We live a certain way, we have a certain amount of stress, we eat a certain way, but the body knows how to respond. And we start with perimenopause. Progesterone starts to decline, estrogen starts to go crazy, and all of a sudden our body has lost its predictability. And it has knock-on effects on cortisol, the stress hormone, on insulin, the blood sugar regulating hormone, on melatonin, the sleep hormone, serotonin, one of the feel-good hormones, on our gut health. Estrogen is a really, really powerful hormone, and we sort of call it a master hormone because it keeps everything else in check. It keeps our adrenal glands, our thyroid, our liver, our gut health. It plays a really important role in keeping everything in check, and when it starts to fluctuate and move, whatever was going on in those 20 years prior to perimenopause starts to unravel now, which means that food that you ate in your teens, 20s and 30s and never was a problem for you may start to be a problem now. So in your 20s and your 30s, you may have been able to diet for 2 weeks, 3 weeks to fit into a dress you needed to wear for a wedding, a family event, fit into that outfit you wanted to wear for a summer, party, whatever it is. We could all do that. Many of us could do that. But it gets harder. And more than it getting harder, our body is responding to those same foods in very different ways. Example is gluten or carbohydrates. Bloatedness, indigestion, constipation, stomach cramps, all of those things may start to happen. It's not that you've all of a sudden become celiac, but you may have become gluten sensitive. Our body is not responding in the same way to things that it was doing before. So there are, let me just check and make sure that everything is fine. So you may have been able to eat bread and pasta and your rolls and bagels in your 20s and 30s and never really had an issue, or maybe there was an issue that you weren't paying attention to because we're just so busy. But those same foods now, your body does not respond in the same way. There is an extra burden that is placed on your body. The system, that delicate, everything in balance, everything just right system is changing because of this stage of life that we are in. Same with sugar, and especially with sugar, and it's also the same thing applies with carbohydrates. If we have been eating these consistently over time, and I'm going to specifically talk about sugar. If we have had a sugar-rich diet, and I say sugar-rich diet because I'm not talking about an unhealthy diet. You could be eating lots and lots of fruit. You could have a sugar-rich diet, maybe without even realizing it. For many women in perimenopause and menopause, they start to have much more sugar cravings, so they're eating more sugar. But even if you're not eating more sugar, you may just naturally have a sugar-rich diet, or you may have a sugar-rich diet without even realizing it. But our insulin, our blood sugar regulating hormone, is beginning to behave differently and respond differently because of its relationship with estrogen, because of its relationship with cortisol. As I said, estrogen is one of the mother hormones. It is really running what is going on with all the other hormones, and insulin starts to behave differently. It becomes less responsive. The pancreas that produces the liver, that produces the insulin, has to work harder. The cells that are releasing the sugar, glucose in our body, or controlling the glucose in our body, may not be responding as much to insulin as they used to. We seem to see a natural progression, a natural development of, as we age and get into perimenopause and menopause, more insulin resistance, which means that our body is experiencing more stress. We are naturally under more stress, but it is being expressed as more stress. And how our body is relating to sugar changes. In addition, as we lose estrogen, our body wants to store estrogen because it wants to keep it. Because estrogen is very protective and supportive, as I've said. Where is estrogen stored? As our ovaries shut down the production of estrogen, estrogen is stored in fat cells. It reverts to being made not by the ovaries anymore, but by the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are going through their own journey and their own process because of its production of cortisol, which if you're leading a very stressed out life, so if you're leading a stressed out life, if you've had stress in your life in the years leading up to perimenopause, our adrenal glands are also working overtime. So our adrenal glands are working overtime. There's lots of cortisol being pumped out in our bodies. Our estrogen, progesterone is fluctuating. Our ovaries are reducing their estrogen production. Insulin's relationship with estrogen is changing, so insulin becomes less sensitive and we're getting more insulin resistance. We have maybe had a high sugar diet with or without realizing it, and so our body's response to sugar is changing. So much going on. I don't want to overwhelm you too much with the biology, but bottom line is what worked before is not working in the same way now. Our bodies are naturally changing. And as a response, we need to change what we are eating, when we are eating, how we are eating. We need to understand that what worked before to support us and to sustain us will not necessarily work now. We need to understand how to support our changing body. And I think that is the crux of this whole conversation. As we go through perimenopause, menopause, and well into postmenopause, we need to be asking the question, how are we supporting our changing body? And when it comes to the topic of carbohydrates and sugar, we need to ask, so what does our body need? How are we feeling? How is our body responding to these things that we have always done? Because all of a sudden now we have telltale signs that our body does not like this food. We are exhausted. We have brain fog. We're gaining weight unexpectedly when nothing has changed. We have aching bodies and aching joints. We're not sleeping properly. We are just feeling so exhausted. Even after we sleep a night's sleep, we wake up feeling tired. There is so much going on that is not just about the hot flashes, the night sweats, the low libido vaginal dryness, or the things that we just sort of think are typical menopause. There is so much changing in our body that if you listen and pay attention, you will all of a sudden realize, oh my gosh, yes, I am experiencing that. I didn't know it was menopause related. What's going on? And as one of our members posted in the Menopause Sisterhood group, she cut out sugar and she discovered unbelievable implications that she didn't even expect. She didn't even realize. It wasn't just she had sugar cravings. All of a sudden, she feels better. She has more energy. Her skin is clearer. She's sleeping better. Brain fog is gone. She can focus and concentrate and do things that she didn't even realize was related. Yes, she maybe knew it was related to perimenopause, but just even cutting out the sugar had such a profound effect. Forget about hormone replacement therapy. No one needs hormones if you know how to make small changes that actually impact what's going on in your body and actually restore naturally hormonal balance. The same is true with carbohydrates. But carbohydrates is a little bit more subtle. We need carbohydrates. We need carbohydrates and cholesterol in our body because cholesterol is the mother of hormonal productions. It is the master. It is the starting point for biological hormone production in our bodies. We need cholesterol. We need carbohydrates. We need that support. And for some women, cutting out carbohydrates totally, going on a keto style diet, may not be the best thing for them, because they may exacerbate some things. They may be more tired, they may have migraines. But the big question is, what is your source of carbohydrates? And why are we talking about carbohydrates? Because at the end of the day, our body breaks down carbohydrates into glucose and some other things. There are other good things going on there, but pure processed white carbohydrates are interpreted by the body as sugar. If you're eating a bagel, a white flour bagel, and to be honest, even a brown flour bagel, if you're eating a bagel, for your body, in terms of the insulin response, in terms of what is going on in the body, you may as well eat a tablespoon of sugar. I'm not going to go into the biology. It's another whole long conversation. I don't want to overwhelm you all about why is insulin resistance so bad for our bodies? Why is it? It is a systems thing in our body. It's not just about menopause symptoms. I'm focusing on the menopause symptoms, the insulin resistance implication as it is expressed in menopause symptoms. But there are so many other ways that insulin resistance impacts us. Brain function, cardio, gut health, muscles, so much, chronic disease, so much going on why insulin resistance, forget about perimenopause symptoms, menopause symptoms, but just long-term health, it's bad. I'm not going to go into that. I'll do that another time. But pure white processed carbohydrates are interpreted in our body as sugar. They get broken down into glucose, and then you have the same insulin response as if you're eating a tablespoon of sugar, a chocolate bar, a cookie, an apple, a handful of dates. So carbohydrates come under the same category as sugar because of how they are broken down, because of how they are interpreted in the body. But not all carbohydrates are created equally. To be honest, some people think not all sugar is created equally, but honey, stevia, date syrup, dates, sugar, in terms of your body's interpretation, the way your body responds to it, it's all the same. Same as with white carbohydrate sources. However, there are complex carbohydrates, and there are carbohydrate sources from more healthier sources. Some vegetables have really good high carbohydrate sources. Sweet potato, pumpkin, broccoli. They have high carbohydrate sources, but they are much better than eating a bowl of pasta. Lentils, beans, chickpeas, quinoa, that we always say is a high protein source, also has high carbohydrates. Even cashew nuts have high carbohydrate source. But those are really good source of carbohydrates. My disclaimer is you have to see how your body responds. For me personally, I can't go near any of that stuff. Beans, lentils, you have to soak them really well. You have to know how to manage them before you cook them. But most carbohydrates, even brown rice, even those types of things, I get bloated, I get exhausted, my energy drops, I have that insulin spike and then that insulin drop. For me personally, I don't go anywhere near those even complex carbohydrates. I do have sweet potato, I eat a lot of vegetables, I eat cashew nuts, but the beans, lentils, quinoa, those types of things, for me personally, it's not good for me. So you need to listen to yourself. What is your body telling you? Absolutely 1000%, we should all be staying away from the white carbohydrate, processed carbohydrate sources. But if you need carbohydrates, and as women, as we cycle, even in perimenopause, we're still cycling, we do need some carbohydrate sources, and we may need more carbohydrates at certain times of our month, at certain times of our cycling, and your body will tell you you're craving something. But listen, pay attention. Are you going to go for the chocolate, or are you going to go for the sweet potato? Now, obviously, the chocolate is much more enjoyable, but if we are paying attention and if we want to manage our symptoms, a sweet potato can be really a really good substitute. Some people will say no carbohydrate, no time, nowhere, no how. The more I used to be very dogmatic about it, but I am aware that some women do need that extra carbohydrate source. But the question always is, where are you getting it from? How does it make your body feel? Paying attention to how you feel after eating within the first few hours. Does it trigger another craving? Does it trigger a symptom? As I said, do you feel exhausted and have to go lie down? Are you noticing within the next 24 hours that you're not really properly able to focus? You're feeling bloated. You have much more, you're much more gassy. You're constipated. What is your body telling you? And that is the best source of knowing whether you need these carbohydrates or not. So I hope I've covered a lot. I know there's a lot of information here to absorb. There's a lot going on. Bottom line, what is the biggest takeaway? Tell me what your takeaway is from this mini training. For me, a couple of things. One, hormonal fluctuation in our reproductive hormones during perimenopause and menopause is not just about hormonal fluctuation in our reproductive hormones. It is having a knock-on effect to every other hormone in our body and every other system in our body. Our body now, because of that, is going to respond differently. It is going to respond in unexpected, unpredictable ways, not how it responded in its 20s and our 30s. Foods that you may have used to eat and you never ever had a problem with, you may now be having a problem with. And those foods may be the source or a trigger to your menopause symptoms. And if you remove those foods, you may all of a sudden discover some of your symptoms have disappeared, have gone. You feel amazing with really small, simple changes. The last thing I want to end with is when I work with my clients, I don't believe in removal without replacement and support. I don't believe in dieting and taking out all these food groups and making you crave, feel shame, feel, this unwavering or unexplainable desire to have this food that you now can't eat, which is what usually happens. There is no point removing food if you are not going to find a good replacement that satisfies you, because at the beginning of this journey, you are going to want these foods. It takes a while for your body to readapt to not having these food groups. And we need to still eat plenty, eat more protein, more vegetables, more fats, healthy fats, which in and of itself will help reduce the cravings, but find acceptable, appropriate replacements when you just need to eat that bowl of pasta. And that is a lot of the work that I do with my clients is identifying the triggers, removing them, replacing them, and tweaking as we go and really figuring out what is it that you need to help support you as you navigate listening to your body, adapting, supporting your systems, replenishing and restoring that hormonal health and balance, and then really setting you up for long-term hormonal resilience so that those symptoms never come back. Or if new symptoms come, you know exactly what to do. You know how to pay attention and how to identify the triggers. Wow. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know some takeaways. Let me know if any of this is resonating with you. Tell me if there is one or two times, even maybe just for one meal, can you remove carbohydrates from one meal, and how do you feel after that? And once you feel amazing, you're not going to want to go back, because the feelings of having your body back, of being symptom free, is going to prevent you from going back. And that's not saying you'll never ever have a piece of cake, you'll never ever have a cookie, but you'll have it in the right way, appropriately, and know that this is the treat you're giving yourself so that you can carry on feeling amazing. Let me know what you're thinking, people. I can't wait to hear from you. Have a great day, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts very soon.